Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Functional for Life podcast, where we explore various topics relating to health and what I believe to be the four pillars of lifelong functional health, which are mindset, meals, mobility, and movement. I'm your host, Joe Carlson, and today we'll be diving into the first pillar, mindset. So we'll cover 5 important aspects of mindset that'll help you get your mental game on and hopefully get you on point with it. So let's get started. So the first stop on this mental mastery tour is going to be the power of positivity. I know it probably rings a bell, Power of Positive Thinking. There's a book out there. Personally, haven't read the book. If it's a great one, awesome, go for it. But we all know that person, right, that lights up a room with their infectious good vibes and always seems to have a smile on their face, right? Well, today we're going to learn how to channel that kind of energy and boost our overall well-being. So remember, a positive mindset is like sunlight. All the flowers can't help but turn in your direction. So one of the things that we often do is we have negative thoughts. According to the National Science Foundation, actually 80% of our thoughts are negative and 95% of our thoughts are repetitive. So if you compound those two things together, we're thinking negatively a whole lot of the time. That can really affect a lot of different things, right? That can affect the way that we behave. That can affect the way that we react. There's a lot of things that is going to cause because your thoughts end up becoming your actions or your reactions. Those tend to turn into behaviors, which turn into habits, which turn into a character, which then ends up kind of dictating your life, right? So if we can get our thoughts in the right place first, then we have a really good handle on the rest of our behaviors and the rest of our life. So in this case, I know you probably heard the saying, I've heard it before, opposites attract. Well, if you are being negative all the time, that doesn't really apply, right? If you are really negative, you're probably not going to attract a lot of positive people. If you are really positive, that's not necessarily going to attract a lot of negative people. In fact, you'll often attract the same type of stuff that you are putting out. So if you are promoting or putting out a bunch of positive energy, positive thinking, positive interactions, that's generally pretty infectious. So you're going to have other people feeling a little bit more positive. Have you ever come in and made a joke and somebody laughs and then they end up getting really, really negative? Usually not, right? Unless maybe they've had just a terrible day. But even still, that's something that you don't have to worry about. Like, oh, if I'm going to be positive, am I going to get a bunch of negative things coming along? No, you're generally going to attract those type of things that you are putting out. So if you're thinking negative, behaving negative, you'll probably end up having a little bit of negativity going on in your life. So how do we start addressing the negative thoughts that we're having? The first thing to do is to be aware of what you're thinking. So being mindfully aware of the thoughts that you're having, that you're allowing yourself to think, because we do have a choice in the thoughts that we think. We also have a choice on the things that we focus on of the thoughts, right? So being mindfully aware of the thoughts that we are thinking about ourselves is usually how a lot of negativity starts. And then questioning the validity of those thoughts. Our brains don't like change. So if you're trying to change your situation, you might have a lot of negativity coming along with that or thinking about that change. So say you're trying to go to college and your family's never been. Your surroundings, they maybe don't necessarily support that. And you have a lot of fear and anxiety over it. Negative thinking, right? And it's only because you've had that kind of surrounding, right? And your brain says, well, change is bad. Change is stressful. Even if it's a good change is still stressful. So if we can question the validity of those feelings around those negative thoughts and find out where that's coming from, that's going to help us to be able to then say, okay, well, maybe there's even just 1% chance that the opportunity or that the opposite of this is actually true. So if even just 1% chance that the opposite of what you're thinking about yourself or a situation is actually true, so a positive thing, a good thing, now you have the opportunity, just like opening the door, right? Just a little crack. Now, if you have a gust of wind come through, that door is going to swing wide open. You can now search for new proof that's going to support that new positive thought, right? So if you're like, oh man, I've never been good at basketball, I'll never be good at basketball. You say, well, what if I could be? Like, what proof do I have, first off, that I'm bad at basketball? I never played. I don't have any proof saying that I'm bad. I've never competitively gone against anybody. I haven't, practiced really hard and tried really hard to see if I'm good at basketball. So you don't have any proof for that. Or maybe your proof is anecdotal. Maybe it's like, oh, well, I tried shooting once. That's not enough chance to give you the opportunity to see if you could be good or not, right? So thinking, well, what if the opposite's true? What if I'm actually really gifted in this? What if I can become really good at this? And then start to search for reasons why you could be. Pull on past successes, pull on past things that you've done, accomplishments that you've made, and think, you know what? I can take that same idea and that same capacity that I am actually capable of doing this thing and put it towards this direction, this goal. That will allow you to start making steps in that direction and be able to do those things that you've been wanting to do, right? So searching for that new proof. Actions are dictated by our thoughts. So if we're thinking negatively, our actions may be negative. It's kind of hard to get out of a pit when you don't know where you're going, right? If you don't have any light for that direction, you're going to continue stumbling around. But if you can change the way that you're thinking, and we can get more of a positive perspective on things, that can help us in our actions to be more positive. If you are upbeat and you go into work and you are feeling positive, a lot of positive things have happened, you can help lift other people up into more of a positive mindset. But have you ever been around that person who's just really, really negative, and you go in and you're just like, man, I had a great day, but then I went to work and then I interacted with this person who was really negative, and that can affect the rest of your day. So your negativity or your thinking positively are going to affect the way that you behave, and those actions are then going to dictate what happens. So if you're being really negative, you might act negatively and then question, well, why is all this negative stuff happening to me? It's because of the thoughts. It started there. So how can we turn that around? Well, if something negative happens that you determine to be negative, right? Say you get a bill from the IRS, right? You say, okay, you could have the reactions come up, this is not good for me. This is the worst timing. I don't owe them. Who are these people? Why are they doing this to me? Why am I being singled out? All these kind of things. And you can, instead of doing that, you can say, okay, this may not be the most ideal situation, but this is good because now I'll have some experience in this area as to, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to do whatever I did those last few times, or I'm not going to forget to ask whether I have gotten these things paid or whether or not I have the correct thing listed for my W-2 when I apply for a new job. All these different things that will give you the ability to be better prepared in the future. And also, should somebody else come in the same situation, you can be able to help them, right? So if you can take those situations, those negative things and negative thoughts, and say, but this is good because, and then search for some of the reasons why, that will help you to start thinking a little bit more positive, and that'll kind of change your trajectory a little bit. So next up, we're going to be tackling the dreaded F word, failure. But don't worry, we're not here to dwell on past mistakes, right? Instead, we'll discuss how to embrace failure, learn from it, and ultimately use it as a stepping stone to your success. So it's kind of like dirt. If you plant your seeds of future goals in the soil of your failures and allow them to fuel your growth, then you're going to come out stronger and more fruitful. So it's kind of like having all of the negative stuff be the fertilizer for your success. Because I really love the Ed Milet show. He says something in there, and this is just paraphrasing essentially, that your failures don't disqualify you or discount you. They're actually the very things that qualify you to be able to do something or help somebody, because you are in the best position to help someone who was you, right? So it's the very fact that your experiences, one, they make you human, they make you connectable, they make you relatable. And two, they give you the experience that would be needed in order to be able to help someone else or to be able to go on to that next great thing, right? So failures are not really failures. They are just simply experiences that we can use to propel us forward into a better place. Thinking about Edison, this is whether or not the number is actually correct or if it's just like a colloquialism that's kind of settled on it. You've heard that says, he took 1,000 unsuccessful attempts to make a light bulb before he finally did it. It only takes one successful attempt to be able to cause crazy change, but maybe it takes 1,000 unsuccessful attempts first. That doesn't mean failures, right? I like to say failure, you only fail if you give up. So if you continue to get back up from a failure or something that wasn't successfully coming out, it didn't actually produce the successful result that you were looking for. Where's I going with this? Okay, I got it. If you keep going, if you get back up, you're never going to fail. You're only going to learn all the different ways that are not going to help you reach that goal. And it's a very valuable experience because maybe then you can impart that knowledge to somebody else, or maybe it'll just help you with something else in your life because everything in our lives are really interconnected. So it could probably help you somewhere else. So persisting through your failure is actually going to make you stronger. Kind of a little bit of an analogy because your mental muscles will grow with resistance, just like your physical muscles will grow with resistance. So failure isn't necessarily where you can't make it anymore. It's more so just resistance to change. And if you can continue to persist through those resistances, you're actually going to grow stronger and you're going to be more capable of getting through future resiliencies or challenges. And you're going to become a more successful person overall in your thinking and in your behaviors and in your goals, right? So if you can change your perspective from relating yourself to the failure, because this is something that I have done a lot, right? Saying I am a failure, because you're believing those fears and the things that we were talking about earlier, to I have failed, but I will try again. If you keep that mindset of I will try again, just but I will try, but I will continue, but I will keep moving forward, you will never actually fail. You'll only learn the different ways how not to succeed. So, mindfulness. It's not just for monks on mountaintops, although with my haircut, I'm sure that could probably be mistaken for one. In this section, we're going to explore the benefits of cultivating mindfulness in our everyday lives. Okay, so we'll cover some simple techniques that can help you to stay present, reduce your stress, improve your overall quality of life, maybe. Imagine your mind as a garden. All the plants in it, both the food plants, the good ones, and the weeds, they're your thoughts, your feelings, and your experiences and things that happen to you. The more that you are aware of what's going on in your garden, the better you will be able to grow the thing that you want rather than the weeds and other things that would overrun what you're wanting to grow, right? So how are we supposed to practice mindfulness? Well, the first way is awareness of your feelings and your thoughts. So you've already started that if you've been thinking about that from that first topic, right? So being aware of the thoughts and feelings that you're having helps you to practice mindfulness. Being present, right? So there's a technique that a friend of mine kind of brought to me, which is used often with people who have had different addictions and things like that. And it's called grounding. And actually a study by the NIH in 2015 I did note that grounding appears to improve sleep, which is awesome. We all need better sleep. Normalize the day and night cortisol rhythms, because cortisol is that stress hormone, right? So that helps to reduce stress, which can help to reduce pain, reduce inflammation, shift the autonomic nervous system from sympathetic, which is that fight or flight, towards parasympathetic activation, which is that rest and digest, recover, right? It can increase your heart rate variability, which, can be helpful if you're wanting to decrease your heart rate, which, can help with your overall heart health. It can speed up wound healing, which is pretty interesting, right? Where it's like, oh, well, if you're stressed all the time and you are, just disconnected, your body may not be able to heal as quickly. And also reduce your blood viscosity, which can, of course, decrease the blood pressure that you have. It can decrease your risk of stroke and heart attack and other things like that. So a lot of really good benefits from grounding, which is just being present essentially in the moment. I believe that my friend, he takes his shoes off and just like the first 15 minutes in the morning, just walking around, feeling and being aware of those feelings of the different types of ground that you're walking on, right? So grounding, it's pretty easy. Just take your shoes off, walk around barefoot, feel the feelings, connect with the feelings, be present with what you're feeling and the variation and everything to help you bring you back in so that you're not on this fight or flight looking out for everything everywhere else, right? Also, a few other things that can be really helpful. We are a screen society. We are a technology place. And so disconnecting from phones, screens, and social media will help to bring your awareness more back to your physical being and less towards everything else that's happening everywhere else, right? So that will be something that could be helpful, even just like 5 minutes. You can set a 5-minute timer for your phone, put your phone aside, and then just don't interact with screens or things. Instead of reading something on your phone, read a book instead, right? Newspaper. I'm not sure if you can find one, but they do still print them. So a lot of different things with that. Also, something that can be really helpful for mitigating stress and getting your thoughts more clear is journaling. Journaling is very helpful in both giving you some grounding in your mental capacity, but also getting maybe some thoughts, ideas, stresses, concerns, things that have been going around, again, repeating in your mind, 95% of those, onto paper and out of this vicious cycle, right? So if you have some negative stuff that you're feeling, write it down, get it out, allow your mind that rest, right? Meditation is also a really great thing. And meditation doesn't have to be a whole spiritual thing, right? Unless you want it to be. But meditation really is just about bringing your awareness to the present, and you can use it for a way of actualizing things or visualizing things of where you want things to go and how you see yourself moving forward in the future. Visualization is kind of a version of meditation that sports athletes will actually use. And I remember an example of, I forget which year it was, but the U.S. Olympic cross-country skiing team, they would use visualization to visualize performance of a certain action or motion, and they would just go over it over and over, visualizing the perfect performance of how they would feel, all the things that they would experience, the motion, all of that. And that would help their mind to connect with their bodies to actually be able to perform that so much better, learn it so much better, actually make it happen, right? So thoughts, again, can become your actions. So if you can meditate and bring your thoughts in and just awareness, essentially, of where you are, that can help you to be able to disconnect from the stress, disconnect from the negativity, and just become a little bit more aware of your body and how you're thinking too. Breath work is a really great thing that can be combined with meditation. So essentially, breath work is just taking an amount of time, again, like maybe 5 minutes, setting it aside. You can do guided breath works. They've got videos and stuff of this on YouTube, so you can search for them. But just being aware of your breath, the sensation that you get, and just focusing only on your breathing in and out and how it feels. That will help your mind to get less distracted and more focused on one thing, giving you a little bit of reprieve from the constant circulation of various different thoughts and feelings that are going through your mind. And then an actual thing, which we'll be talking about in the meals episode, is going to be mindful eating. It's essentially putting aside all those distractions, finding a place, usually like at a dining table or somewhere where you can sit down and focus on the food. And I think for me anyway, I think that this is one of the reasons why eating out can be more enjoyable than eating at home. And one reason why people like to go out to eat is because they're usually, hopefully anyway, not super distracted by, a TV screen, a phone screen, but they're actually going there for the experience of eating the food. And so it seems so much better. Maybe your cooking at home actually is just as good as that restaurant you're going to or that fast food place that you're going to, maybe even better, but you just don't realize it because you're not focusing on the food. You're not being mindful of how you're feeling, all the different tastes and sensations. And who knows, you might discover you like something new, right? So that's another way that we can practice mindfulness. Gratitude is a game changer. For me, it's been a huge game changer. In this section, we're going to talk about how practicing gratitude can transform both your mindset and set you up for success in all aspects of your life. It's really made a difference for me. And I'll share some tips on cultivating an attitude of gratitude and how we can discuss expressing appreciation and how that can improve your relationships, your career, your overall happiness. It's like being grateful for each type of food that you have. The more that you count them, the more that you realize how many there are. You might not even realize how many varieties of different tomatoes are out there or different fruits until you realize, oh, well, there's actually this thing. Oh, there's this other thing too. And then maybe your horizons expand, right? So it kind of just brings awareness to that. With repeated thoughts that we were talking about, right? 80% of those are negative, 95% of those are repeated. If we can change the way that we are thinking to be more grateful, then those thoughts can start to repeat. And if you can have repetition of grateful thoughts or thankful thoughts, those can totally change your perspective on things. Let me give you a picture of that. So when you get a new car, whether it's new to you or brand new, do you ever realize suddenly, just out of the blue, how many of those same cars there are out there? And it's something with our brains where we will see and recognize the things that we are focusing on. You've got all of your focus and your intent. Oh man, this is an awesome car. I love this car. And then suddenly everybody has that car. It's not that the number of those cars have changed. They've always been there. It's just where your focus is, right? It's what things that you're focusing on. So there are so many things that are like things that we can be super grateful for, super thankful for, that we can just be like, oh man, I am blessed up the wazoo. But unless you're being grateful for some things, you may not notice them. They're still there. You might just not notice them. So what can you do to help change the negativity into gratitude, right? Pessimism into thankfulness. You can do things like saying thank you or you're welcome. If somebody gives you a compliment, you just say thank you. If someone thanks you for something, say you're welcome. If you're asking for something, just say please. Vocalizing your appreciation for others can help other people to feel better. And there's a really cool phenomenon. It's actually something that the NIH did publish about a study called mirror neurons. What are mirror neurons? Well, neurons are the cells that are in your nervous system that conduct electricity and help you with your thought patterns, movement, and everything like that. And it also helps to, of course, we're electrical beings, right? Where it helps to influence how we feel. So they actually did these studies on monkeys' brains where they found that these specific neurons, they discharge, so they send a signal, both when the actual individual executes a certain activity or when that person, they observe another individual performing that same or similar activity. So they can get the benefit or the feeling of maybe satisfaction just by watching somebody else do it. It's probably the premise of why so many of these YouTube videos on people maybe eating a lot of food get so much view, right? They get so many views, they have so much interactions because people are experiencing this vicariously through somebody else. I'm sure you've probably heard that term, experiencing life vicariously through another person. That's mirror neurons in action, right? So if you help somebody else to feel better by expressing your gratitude for them or for something that they've done, next time you go to the store, maybe say thank you to the associate who's working there. Thank you so much for working today. I really appreciate you checking me out through this line and getting everything done. Or, hey, thank you so much for filling up my gas tank if you're in Oregon, right? Because they do that here. Or thanking your server for wonderful service, even if maybe they didn't do the best job. It's going to help them feel better, and you'll see them smiling and feeling good, and it'll make you feel good because of those mirror neurons. So if you want to feel better, try helping somebody else feel better, and then you'll feel better in return. So it's just kind of returns, and that can kind of keep going back and forth, right? Because then they see you feel good, it makes them feel good. Just have a nice repeating positive cycle, right? So try to focus on being grateful for things. One thing that, again, like we used previously, if something bad happens, say, okay, but this is good because, then start finding reasons to be thankful for that thing that happened. It's going to help you to turn around, be a little bit more grateful, and you'll start to realize how much you have to be grateful for, and things just start to feel better. And don't we all want to feel better? Lastly, but certainly not least, let's talk about building resilience. So life is full of challenges, but how we respond to them can make all the difference. In this final section, we're going to discuss a few strategies for bouncing back from setbacks, managing stress, and developing the mental toughness that's needed to thrive in every situation or any situation. So just like a palm tree can survive the horrific winds of a hurricane, let's get our minds ready to bend without breaking. Mental muscles grow with use and resistance, just like physical muscles grow. If we can reframe challenges as opportunities, that's going to help us to be more resilient when things start to occur in the future. If we're always catastrophizing things, so being like, oh man, this happened and now the world's ending, or oh, this happened, I can't imagine, like, how could this happen? Why me? Instead of catastrophizing things, if we can reframe them as simply opportunities, that these are some challenges, yes, but they're opportunities to overcome or actually be able to do more in the future, that's going to help us to be more resilient, because the very capacity or the very ability for us to reframe that is resilience, right? Also, be easy on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. I feel like we are our own worst critics, aren't we? Would you speak to your dearest loved one the same way that you think about yourself? I don't think you would. And if you would, maybe you need to reframe the way that you're thinking. So when we are treating ourselves negatively, we are breaking down our own resilience, our own capacity to continue performing or doing something. So if we can help to give ourselves a little bit of grace, right? Forgive yourself. Like if you slip up in something, say, you know what? I am only human. I'm not an expert in this. And it's okay because I'm learning. I strive to do better, but give yourself a little grace. Don't kick yourself down so much and don't beat yourself up so much. Would you do that to somebody else? Or would somebody else do that to you? Now, not somebody who hates you, right? But just any general person who is kind or a normal person, would they beat you up so much for something that you did? Probably not as much as you're doing to yourself. So give yourself a little bit of grace. It'll help you to be more resilient, because little things that happen, little hiccups or little challenges, bumps in the road, aren't going to throw you totally off course. And that's part of what resiliency is being able to continue on when something comes up as a challenge or an obstacle. Also think about, what is it that you're wanting, right? What do you want out of life? What do you want out of your job? What do you want out of a relationship? What do you want out of anything, right? Out of health, out of capacity? What is it that you're looking for? And what is it worth to you? Because if you have a goal and you have something that you want to do, if you really want to do it, you'll be willing to sacrifice certain things. And oftentimes resiliency is just when a challenge comes along, are you willing to push past that or sacrifice something in order to achieve your goal? So that's a part of what resiliency is it is recognizing what it is that you want or what your goals are and being willing to put something else aside in order to achieve those goals. There's also something I've seen going around a lot. I'm sure that you probably have seen it too. And it's that hard, like what's hard? Which hard will you choose? It's hard to be poor and not have any money and not be able to pay your bills. And it's also hard to make enough money and work hard so that you have everything that you need in order to be able to pay for all of that. It's just hard work. Which hard are you going to choose? It's hard to be unhealthy and sick and not be able to do the things that you want to do. It's also hard to get healthy sometimes, right? To be able to exercise, push yourself, go walking every day, get yourself out the door, eat healthy. Which hard are you going to choose? Because life is hard. I'm not going to candy coat it. Life is not easy. But if you can pick which hard you want, it's kind of like that. Your brain tells you everything's stressful. But which stress are you going to choose? Are you going to choose the stress that continues to break you down? Or are you going to choose the stress that continues to build you up and give you new skills and invest in yourself and in your future? Which hard are you going to choose? Celebrate the small wins. So oftentimes we set maybe some lofty goals and then we beat ourselves up when we don't meet those goals. Or maybe you set your alarm for 6:30 and you end up getting up at 10:30. Instead of beating yourself up, celebrate the fact that one, you got up, and two, you still accomplished some of the stuff you were planning to, even if that timetable shifted over. Celebrate the small wins because it's the small wins that lead to larger things that will end up creating major change. So celebrate those small wins because when you do that, it's going to help you repeat that activity. So especially in something that you want to do or you want to change about yourself, maybe going to the gym, right? So you go to the gym and you're like, man, that was really hard. It was really hard to get there, but you made it, right? Now celebrate the heck out of it, right? Celebrate the fact that you went there. Make yourself feel good. Trick your brain into saying, this is awesome. And maybe you'll have less of a barrier the next time and then less of a barrier the next time, right? Celebrate those small wins. It'll help you be more resilient. Instead of focusing on the negative stuff, focus on the stuff that you've done awesome in. Also, try not to compare your success to other people's success. It's great to have people to look up to have a goal to strive for. It's awesome to be able to have some healthy competition. But if you are trying to hold yourself up to the same standards of achieving something as somebody else who has a totally different background, totally different scenario, maybe totally different opportunities that were presented to them far beyond and above what you have been given, you can't expect you to be in the exact same place that they are, or maybe to be as successful as they are right now. That doesn't mean you can't be as successful. That can't be a goal that you have, but don't make somebody else's successes your failures, right? Make your failures your opportunities, celebrate your successes, and then spread that joy to other people. So we've gone over a lot of stuff. That's a wrap for episode 1 of the Functional for Life podcast. I hope that you enjoyed my take on mastering your mindset. And if you're watching us on YouTube and like the content, please consider subscribing and clicking that notification bell. If you are trying to get healthier and you feel like this kind of attention to mindset and details would be helpful for you in attaining your goals and your health, I do also offer health coaching. I'm a lifestyle coach, and you can find me on Facebook at Joseph Carlson and on Instagram at jsteven with PH406. Also, feel free to check out my private Facebook group. It's called Functional for Life Community, and I post a lot of free resources and helpful content on there. Be sure to join me next time as we dive into the second pillar of lifelong functional health, which is meals or nutrition. Until then, stay moving, stay healthy, and stay functional for life.